Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a piece called Rousing Speech. It's for a card game. And the description is there's this captain character who's this sort of stoic, powerful female character. And the description's pretty loose. Pretty much she's wearing heavy armor of some kind, possibly scale mail. She has a halberd. And she's giving a stirring oratory to some soldiers or something like that. So let's begin. As you can see, I'm just doing some push and pull right now with the shapes. We'll transform and trying to figure out the pose. Halberd up, halberd down, halberd to the side, fist up, fist down, hands out, legs apart, legs together, legs crossed, all types of um, different things. You also see I'm using reference for this quite a bit. In order to give it some sort of, I don't want to say accuracy, but maybe credibility, I'm trying to reference actual medieval armor and attire and weaponry, just so that when you see it, it looks right. It doesn't look. There's one thing I really hate. I did a lot of reference searching for this, and there's like this whole slew of like stainless steel weapons online, and I don't know why people make these, and I especially don't know why people buy them. But essentially, they look like tribal tattoos made into weapons. Like they'll have like big curves and hooks and stuff, or like circles or gashes cut out of them, and they just, I mean, they're supposed to look like badass, I guess, but they don't. They just look stupid to me. Um, so I really hate when people include that sort of stuff in anything that's supposed to be, I don't know, anything, I guess. So I made sure to go and look at some like 15th century halberds, especially those with the Nordic variety. Now there's it doesn't say explicitly that they're Norse, but the original reference for the soldiers were sort of Nordic, not quite 100%, but they had some features. So I like to keep it at least a little bit Nordic, but we have a lot of creative license here. So what I'm doing is, instead of doing all the soldiers with their fists up, which is, I don't know, it's A, a lot of work, and B, it's sort of cliche. I was sort of inspired by a piece um, that I saw many years ago um, by Craig Mullins, and I think it was actually used for the movie Excalibur. So if that gives you any ranging of how old it was, I think Excalibur was made in like the late 80s or 90s. But anyway, so I think we're gonna do all these like excited banners instead of people's fists and whatever else in the air, just to make it look, I don't know, it's has like a lot of life to it, a lot of emotion. So anyway, that's what I'm doing now. I'm just adding some banners, and I didn't want them to be um, like this, too loopy. I kind of wanted them to be like kind of angular and sharp looking. Um, I don't know. I just kind of like that look, like they're really flapping hard in the wind. Or okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just refining some of the shapes. Now this was a little bit tough, as I didn't know how close I wanted the soldiers to be. So in the end, I just sort of did this little cheapo crowd effect. So it's a big army. Okay. Oh man, this is gonna take way too long, this part. So I made a really dumb mistake, and I started going for the face first. And as many of you know, faces take a long time to do. At least they can. The problem with faces is that sometimes you'll get caught in this little groove, I guess, and the face just isn't coming the way you want it to look. It's, I'm not working from reference here. I'm just sort of trying to figure out a human face. And as you can see, I'm floundering right now just because the scaling's off, and I have to keep moving it around the hair because it was just bad. I should have planned it out better. I should have, thrown down some lines and gridded it out maybe, I don't know. But this was the incorrect way to do it. But yeah, I spent like an hour or two on the face when I could have done it in like 15 minutes. Had the same effect. And of course, I'm clearly over-rendering it for this stage. Looks like a clay mask or something. Now this face wasn't terrible. I actually kind of liked it, but the one in the end I like better, so it's fine. Now, as you can see, I'm adding way too much contrast and rendering to this, because if you look at the rest of the painting, it stands out like a sore thumb. So it's a decent face, but it didn't feel like it at the time. Now I just messed it up. Oh, it's ruined. Or is it? See, the thing is, even as I'm watching this, I'll notice things that I like about it and be like, oh, that was a good change. But I know it's not going to stay like that. I was really happy with the way the hair came out. The hair I did extremely quickly. Like, I mean, you can watch the timer. This is sped up by 999%. So the original painting took like 6 hours to do, and this is going to be 40 minutes long. Um, yeah. And then I sort of did the eyes closed, not because I actually wanted her eyes to be closed, but just because I realized that there's such a small area of the canvas dedicated to her face, and there's way too much detail there, so I think I let the viewer fill some of that in for themselves. So here I changed the arm position. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Here I changed the arm position. Originally it was up in the air, sort of like fist, but now it's sort of more out. And it's not going to stay like that. Right now it looks a little bit like a Nazi salute, but it's not going to stay like that. It's going to be ameliorated. See now, oh, what am I doing? I'm just messing with the features. I can't decide. The problem is I kept reimagining the lighting, and also, I don't know if maybe I should have been an animator or something, but whenever I see a still image, I always want to see it move, and I don't know, like I just want to see the next progression of the motion, so I'll just do it, and then I realize, well, now I just messed up my original image. Way to go. So now she's a tiny little doll face on a huge head. And her lips are really cool looking, but they're way too pronounced. And the shadowing I really liked, but it made it look like she had a goatee. She looks like a Guy Fawkes mask. So I had to fix that. Fixing the nose, adding the eyes. Eyes are tough because you always want to make them white, but they never really are white in reality. Eyes are actually sort of a pinkish color, and then in most lighting they're going to be kind of red or brown. I mean, I'm not talking about the actual iris. I'm talking about the sclera. The white of the eyeball is never really white. Only in like those up close photos with a extremely cool light do you get white sclera. Okay, so this face actually I really liked it, but the problem was that this is rousing speech, not stoic face. So this is going to have to change. It's very crisp though. Usually my style's not that crisp. Fixing the head. Always fixing the head. See what I mean? This should not have taken this long. This is just me being an idiot. Alright, so now I finally just say, okay, whatever. This is actually my thought process was exactly this. Whatever, I need to do the rest. And then, of course, I went back. At least you can't say the lighting was bad. Actually, there's a little bit of a Lady Gaga thing going on right now, though. So this mouth was kind of awesome. Excuse me. This mouth was kind of awesome. Not because it was intense, but because it was not intense. It was sort of like a Greek operatic, kind of just like the muse masks that are just sort of like open. Okay, then I tried doing these giant lips, and let me say one thing. Upper teeth and no lower teeth never looks right. Looks like they're buck tooth. So then I like this mouth too, but it suffered from the same issue, which is that it was really non-committal, I guess. It just didn't really read one way or the other. I gave her some baseball player makeup. It's getting there though. Whoops, I accidentally closed it. Now she's terrifying. I think this is actually starting to get close to what the final face looked like, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Gotta be careful. Can't have too much contrast around the teeth. It's really tempting to have this like solid black line around the teeth, but you can't do that because that's just not what they look like. Yeah, this is definitely getting close because this is pretty close to what the actual image is gonna look like. All right. Now I sort of regret polishing everything so much in the black and white stage, and I know you're supposed to do that, or I mean, supposed is a little bit arbitrary, but um, it's smiled upon, I guess, to do everything in the black and white and then color. But the problem I was having later, which I will talk about to extent, um, is that once everything is really super rendered out in the black and white, um, coloring becomes very difficult because just by throwing tones down, you imply shade, like dark and bright values, and that's just it just messes everything up. So you'll see that later. All right, so we're doing the least fun thing ever, or the most fun thing, depending on how well it goes, and that's metal, especially bright reflective metal. I love the way the chest plate came out, and then the rest of the piece was me struggling to get the rest of the metal to look like the chest plate, because the chest plate was just so quick and so natural. It's got a nice bounce, it's got this nice sheen to it, it looks kind of watery, like it's reflective, but the other metal just doesn't look like that. Fixing her legs. She goes through some really awkward poses here. Now she looks like she's going to fall over. Now she looks like she's wearing trousers. Now she looks like she's missing a leg. And I guess I gave up on that for a little bit. And I realized, yep, when I zoomed out, I realized how funny it looked. So then I did the leaning forward stance, and I believe this is the one I used in the end. So one thing I've learned over the years is that characters who are wearing the bare necessities, as in armor and sword or whatever, are very boring. They're just not interesting to look at. There's no story there. It's really easy to dismiss them. There's just nothing interesting about them. So, one thing I really like to do is when I paint a character, I just sort of lavish on little personal, characterful details. So, right now she doesn't have that many, but she's starting to get some. So, the halberd has this sort of intricate design on it, which actually I think I get rid of. I eat my words. But only one of her arms is sleeved. The other one is not in plate mail. She's got the sword that's loose and has an interesting belt. She's not wearing plate leggings. You'll see. She's got this very gothic arm plate. I also thought the hair came out well. The hair said she had, or the brief said she had short hair, but I think this sort of look came out. It was really funny because as I got to this stage, I realized she looked just like Carrie Byron from Mythbusters, and that was a little bit awkward because I didn't intend for that. Okay, so right now she's got this stunty hand, which I'm fixing up, and just fixing some of the lines. I wanted to give the halberd some perspective. I know it's really easy to have your weapons all in profile. People do it all the time, especially when they use reference, because, I mean, generally speaking, if you look up an image of something, especially a weapon, it'll be on the table and someone took a photo of it. Um, but I mean, just go around, look up stuff online, look up any weapon, and then try to find any artwork, and you'll notice that a lot of people just paint things directly straight on, even if it doesn't make sense. So, for example, especially with guns, guns are very complex, and until you actually used or maintained one, they're very difficult to understand. I mean, people know it's bang, bullet comes out, but there's a lot of mechanical elements to a firearm that are not really innately understandable. So when people draw them, they tend to make them just really flat, and it doesn't look natural. Alright, so here I'm adding some details to the armor, constantly switching back and forth with my reference. I was really fortunate in that the hand holding the halberd came out extremely well on my first pass. I actually had very little problem with the hands in this piece, which is rare, especially for me. I tend to get stuck on the hands and face. I love doing faces. I don't like doing hands. So, what are you going to do? Here I'm fixing the lines of the armor because they were off. They just weren't following the curve correctly. Now, I'm not doing the armor exactly one-to-one, but there are a lot of really neat details that just make the armor look good, and I want to incorporate as many of those as possible. So if it had been one-to-one, the male skirt, or the plate skirt would have been much shorter. It actually probably would have ended above her butt instead of below it. And the different levels or layers of the armor would have been much more highly stacked up. So I'm just adding these little, not spikes, but little wave tip crests, so you can see. Little rivets. Details, details, details. Now these things I still am not in love with, but they look fine. They add something interesting. They're these sort of like little floral emblazoned pieces with somewhat arbitrary leather straps hanging off of them, but they add detail. They don't look bad, so I kept them. I had a little bit of a crisis here. I couldn't decide. Well, first off, this forum part was a pain in the butt. It's really difficult to make it look right in the perspective that it's being projected. The other problem I had was I didn't know if I wanted there to be cloth or scale mail underneath the plate. I ended up going with scale mail, but I've seen, at least in museums and older paintings, that sometimes people wear like velvet under their scale mail. I'm sorry, under their plate mail. You have to wear clothes under your scale mail, otherwise you can't just wear a mail shirt over skin. It's extremely uncomfortable and it will rend you apart. But I didn't know if it was going to be, silk scale plate or just silk plate or what the deal is going to be. So here I'm trying to cheat to get these in perspective perfectly on the first go, and it doesn't work out. So she's got some nice, interesting details. She's got these, little leather belts, little leather straps here and there. Just stuff that's like, oh, well, that doesn't look common, or that's a lot of detail. The thing looks like it might work. Right now I'm adding just... So I stopped using the chainmail brush that Darken made. It's a very good tool, but I just don't... It didn't really work for me in this situation. It might have just been the scaling of it, she's not that close to the camera or the viewer, and I don't know, it just didn't really fit, so I did it by hand instead. So I found these really cool boots online that you can see on the left, and I use them as reference, these medieval boots, and they were just really cool because I kind of, people over-sexualize female heroines, like Red Sonja and stuff. They always just are wearing like a bikini, and I don't know. I imagine if I was a woman going to battle, I'd probably want to have more of my body covered than that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. So I like to actually have my female characters be dressed as if they were going to battle, not as if they were going to work at the strip club. So I want her to be covered up as if she was really going to battle. So I gave her these boots that are still sort of, I mean, they're a little bit sexy. They're like thigh-high superhero-y, but they're realistic. They did exist, and they're an actual historical style. Okay, now we're doing some little rivets, not rivets. I'm sorry, little chain links, little ringlets. That's the word. And I could have used the custom brush, but I just sort of wanted to do it my own way. Now there are these little holes in the armor, and I believe those are for optional additions. Um, but I didn't. I liked it like this. I think those are more for like horseback riding, and I think there's I can't remember what it's called. There's a neck plate that gets added, but it's not always necessary. So I thought she looked sort of boring in just the plate. She looked good, don't get me wrong, but she didn't look like a captain. So I gave her this sort of fur mantle, sort of like a mink or some sort of beastie. And originally I was thinking dragon skin because I have been doing so many dragons for this piece, but dragons are just one of the several factions. So it just felt like I was sort of, um, I don't know, playing to my own pieces more than the other artists. I haven't actually seen the other artwork that much. There's some on the website, but you know, I didn't really want to just exclude them, so I didn't include that. I guess there's like undead, fire, ice, or wind, maybe. I think it's earth, wind, fire, and it's like undead and like shadow creatures, maybe. You can find out more on the website. It's Shadowrift. Google it, because I don't have it off the top of my head. Alright, so then I added a cape. So she's like a little fur mantle, and then there's this cape underneath, sort of a raggedy cape that's billowing. Just adds more motion, more drama. I decided to add her, give her an Olympic medal. Well, I gave her some sort of medal. The only problem is it made it look really Germanic, and so I had to be careful. And then I started doing these designs, and every time I did one, it looked more like an athletic one, or like a Girl Scout cookie, or whatever. So I started going with the cross just because it's simple, and I've used it on the swords. But I don't believe it stays quite like that. Alright, so there's one glaring issue, which is that her arm is just silhouetted in gray. So time to go in and render out the arm and the glove. So we give it some straps, leather straps are always good for armor. Give her some mail. And I did something interesting, which is I gave her a semi-mail sleeve, not a full mail sleeve. Also, FYI, so generally speaking, unless you're wearing full plate, if you're right-handed, the left side of your body will be more heavily armored. The reason being is that you're going to be using that for blocking, and if you're holding a spear, halberd, or a pike, that's the side that's going to be presented to the enemy more often than not. So, as you can see, her left side is armored, her right side is a little bit less armored. She's got a scale sleeve and a leather gauntlet, but she does not wear full plate. Also, if you're right-handed, your sword is hung on your left side, so you draw across. Pistols are a little bit different. Pistols are usually on the side that you're dominant with. Sometimes people have them, on the opposite side facing backwards, so the handle's out facing the front, but I think that's more of a Western thing. I don't really think that's that common. Uh, So yeah, just some little knowledge for you. So here I'm adding more ringlets. Just pick them out to add the detail. And I did this nice little effect with the leather, which is that I had the tongues from the belts hanging out, flapping a little bit, and it just kind of gives a little more motion. I had some spears to the crowd just to make them look a little bit more military, but in the end, I actually don't like the way they came out because of that one transform I just did. That's actually why. I need to give something to the halberd blade, so I gave it this little design. It's sort of Nordic. It's not really. I mean, I have no background to work on, so I'm just sort of designing as I go. Oh, so what I did just there is I did a liquefy tool around her chest plate to make her breastplate to make it look a little bit more feminine. And I just redid that design on the shoulder there. So adding little belts, little tongues hanging off, giving her a little bit of a star pendant and just some gold into the armor. That doesn't stay. I highlight it and then wait for it. Oh, I'm adding a seam. Okay, where is it? I'll do it in a second. Oh, what I'm doing now is I'm adding a little rolled up collar on this chain. Oh, so I experimented with giving her facial scars, and I kind of liked them, but I think the stitches ruined it, so I ended up not using them. Then I tried to give her eyes, and it looked silly. I mean, it looked okay when they were squinted like that, but I don't know, she looked sort of not quite right, so I ended up bringing down the opacity a lot on them. So I wanted to give her even more crap, so I made this little pattern out of chain link, and then I warped it to fit, and it's going to be sort of like under her armor, just sort of part of her cape, her mantle. And I just freehanded the other side on. Here we are experimenting. So I wasn't aware of this, but when I first went to SCAD, I was told that in the comic book tradition, good guys face from the left to the right, or the protagonists are on the left side of the panel facing the right side of the panel. So that's actually something I've started incorporating, and I guess it sort of makes sense. I don't know why, but when characters are coming from the right, they do seem more aggressive than if they're coming from the left. Oh, there it is. So that's me fixing the amulet again. I also added some little gold ring to her hair, and now I'm adding dents to the armor, and some scratches are going to come up in a second. And I actually use one of my custom brushes, yeah. There it is. I'm adding some just stuff flying around to add motion. Flipped it around, adjustment layers. Time for the coloring. So this is where things get ugly, because I really like the black and white. And it's extremely hard to color these straight lines. As you can see, I have to go back and fix all the edges, and it's a huge pain in the butt. So I don't know how I'm going to do it in the future, because this did not work out well for me. I mean, in the end, I was very happy with the result, but it just took really long. Alright, so I'm doing her pants, or, I'm sorry, her boots. Her pants are on underneath her boots. Now, because everything's so red, yellow looks actually green, so I had to give her more orange color. There's her pants. They had to be made more red because, once again, if you put something that's just gray, it's going to look super blue. Oh, this is awful. So I do the armor, and then what I do is, usually armor is reflective of blue because of the sky, so I sort of put it as a blue so I could tell it apart from everything else. But it's not going to stay that way. Also, you can see that the sky is not blue in this scene, so the armor will not be reflected as such. Lots of little leather belt straps. I love painting them, but I hate coloring them. Painting the glove, straps, other glove, some skin. She's quite tanned, I guess. Doing the little neck thingy. Touch it up. Now I'm doing the ribbon. Oof, that was awful. That was really hard because it was so faint, detailed that it's just like really hard to paint over it. So she actually had a green cape for a while. I wanted her to have some sort of really intense hair. It's fun to color. She's very carrot-like right now. Doing the fur. The fur was actually the easiest thing to color, just because it has a soft edge, so I could just paint it out. Doing some hilts and some wood. Nice halberd. Adding some gold. So the teeth here are actually very lightly colored, but the problem is they're shaded dark because they're in the mouth, so it looks like she has these yellow horse teeth. Now, I was really unhappy with where the color was coming out, so I tried switching different types, different layer types, but it didn't really fix it, so I decided to just push through and deal with it, fix it as I want. So I added a big hue layer just to make everything more red and balance it out. And yeah, I'm just doing some facial details. Multiply layers for this. I use like a pink and a light purple and a light blue and a light yellow for different parts of the face. Going with some color dodge to bump up the highlights, but it's sort of getting a little bit bled out just because it's so bright. So I had to bring that down. And here I'm doing some backlighting, some sort of scattering on the cape and her hair. I want it to be like super bright photograph, sun behind her type of a deal. Lots of atmospheric dust. Adding some bounce on the cape. That's supposed to be her hair bounce. And then we have some bounce from the background, which actually came out pretty nicely. Fixing the hue layer. And then for a while I had an idea of doing it blue, and it was like a winter scene, but that didn't last for very long. It just looked too dead when it was all blue like this. Also, you'll notice, I realize it in a second, but there's an issue with the flag right there. So I'm going to go back and fix that in a moment. The problem is that the pole the flag is on is actually overlapping a closer flag. It's just sort of an artifact. You can see it on the right side of the screen. to fix it, and I realized there's a layer on it. Turn off the layer. There we go. Okay, so now it's got this nice warm look to it. But the problem is that the highlights are too intense, so I have to tone them down. I tried messing with the levels. I wasn't happy with the way the piece looked yet, so I'm just chewing lots of filters and stuff. Tried adding some dust. That helped. Making the sun really bright behind her worked really well. I added some foreground crap and a little dust, aerial perspective. I brought it down. It's not that strong. Just some extreme highlights, just kind of silhouetted rim lighting. Alright, so now I did some of my patented layer filters, which I stack. Smart transform or content aware scaling did not work at this stage in the piece. I guess it had become too complex. That looks really cool. I had these at somehow, so I brought it in just because I liked the way it looked. And then I was messing with these just because they were fun to look at. And I guess that's it. Alright, well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure to come back soon. Check out the new videos, new pieces as they come along. There will be more. I have 3 more commissioned on this project, so I'm just going to let you enjoy this still of the image for a bit, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for coming by.